I'm coming for you. Time to feed. It was a long time ago, long before the first heart-warming songs were ever sang. It was a time of unsure essence, when the 3 pony tribes were still separated, fearful of one another. Magic was a wild thing that kept the world in constant turmoil. Words, of even their most basic form, had yet to be created. One thing that did exist inside the minds of every pony, dragon, yak, zebra, or any other creature with the gift of life was the primal understanding of fear. On one of these ancient nights that stretched on longer than any creature would have liked, a small but very powerful unicorn filly had wandered away from her parents. She couldn't see a hoof in front of her muzzle and was growing more and more afraid of what could be lurking in the darkness. In her heart, she begged for the bright light from the sky to cast away the darkness, and in doing so, cast her first spell. A small light sprung to life from the tip of her horn. The little filly was amazed. She had seen other unicorns use glowing light from their horns to lift small objects, but had never seen one make light. Her joy was short-lived. As the light, she projected shadows from the forms around her, as well as her own shadows. Her own silhouette was cast against debris and tall rocks around her, creating horrible images that struck great fear into the little filly's heart. Thinking these shadows were monsters with life of their own. Falling to the ground, the little filly covered her head with her front hooves, clenching her eyes as tightly as she could, thinking she could keep the monsters away. In her mind, that knew no words, the little filly wished the monsters would go away. For several long minutes, the filly wished for this, her heart beating so fast it echoed in the dark silence. The little filly jumped up and screamed when she felt something touch her, but was quickly silenced by a hoof to her mouth. Her father had woken up when he realized his daughter had wandered off and followed her strange light right to her. He grabbed her daughter and flung her over him so she dropped over his back. The little filly felt safer with her father there, and her light spell flickered out. Because of that, the filly or her father did not see what was right around them. The shadows the filly had created with her horn were still there, even though she wasn't. Her magic had gone out of control, and out of her fear, believing the shadows to be actual monsters, the filly had infused her magic with her fear, and inadvertently given the fear-infused magic to the shadows she made, taking it all in as their first breath of life. The 3 shadow monsters, made from her own warped shadows, moved about with wills of their own. But all living things require something to live, and before they were given a name, these first monsters of the world knew what they craved, what could feed them, what their bodies desired. Fear, and the shadowy forms that would soon be known as Umbrum, an old word meaning shadow, ventured out and quickly caught up with the filly and her small tribe of unicorns. Their campfire was small and dying, but enough light was left to give the Umbrum a form in the darkness. They let loose a howl-like chuckle, deep and horrid, like a lion's roar, letting their prey know they were there. The small tribe of unicorns awoke quickly and gathered in a circle, with their foals at the center for protection against these monsters. The adults held up spears and sharp sticks against the shadow monsters, but their weapons did no harm to the monsters. The weapons passed right through them without causing them any harm, making the Umbrum laugh and chuckle at the unicorn's failed attempts. The more the Umbrum laughed and proved there was nothing the unicorns could do, the more fear set in the hearts of those unicorns. It was the Umbrum's second taste of fear, and it was just as sweet as the first. The Umbrum could never get enough of it, so it seemed, and continued to circle and taunt the unicorns, the deep roars setting chills down the little ponies' backs. The Umbrum learned that they could alter their bodies, take forms that weren't so flat, but more like smoke, give their bodies depth. 4 long, crooked legs, long muzzles with flat teeth, but stuck out of their muzzles, wild manes that flowed like treetops in the wind, eyes that appeared that they were as white as sour milk. Their more detailed forms only made the unicorns more fearful of them. The Umbrum circled the unicorns more, ready to pounce and drain them of every last drop of fear they had. That was until the little filly, the same little filly who gave them life, jumped up from behind her father, looked the Umbrum right in their glowing white eyes, and in one very rare occurrence in these old times, showed no fear. Out of some belief, the filly focused her mind on one thing, the light she had made before. She cast the spell once more, creating a small light from her horn. The Umbrum was hesitant, pulling back a bit, but found the light was not strong enough to harm them, and returned to closing in on the little ponies. The filly refused to stand down. She had discovered something deep within herself and refused to let it flicker away. She fed more fuel to her inner fire, and with it, the light on the end of her horn grew brighter and brighter. The light shot out and hit one of the 3 Umbrum. The creature let out a horrifying scream before running off into the darkness. The other 2 Umbrum were reluctant to retreat, but the light from the young filly's horn began to glow brighter still. The light started to hurt their shadowy bodies. The 2 monstrous shadow creatures gave up on their prey and fled deep into the woods, out of sight of the pony tribe. Once everything was clear, the rest of the tribe turned to the little filly, as a mark appeared on her flank of what appeared to be the image of a sun with a few star-shaped sparks. Every pony cheered for their young savior, who would later take her father's place as leader of their tribe. The 2 Umbrum that were forced away by the unicorn's bright light raced faster than any creature in the land. Their bodies allowed them to weave in and out and around obstacles with ease. The 2 Umbrum took shelter on a mountain peak, where the raging weather and high altitude would keep any creature from finding them. The 2 Umbrum never found the 3rd who had been wounded, but they didn't really seem to care. One of the 2, a male, stood proudly as one could after running away from a fight, looking down from the peak of the mountain, then stood on his back legs, kicking into the air, and let loose a loud, howling roar. The sound carried off and seemed to shake the mountain itself. His howls of rage and anger swirled the wind around the mountain, and from his breath, creatures of similar form to he and the other Umbrum emerged from the wind and snow, given life from his rage. the same way the Umbrum had been given life from unicorn magic powered by fear. The whinnying creatures that gallop in the air above the mountain would be later called Wendigos by the ponies.
Your fear, it's so delicious. I can't wait to have more of it.